So I'm standing in a courthouse lobby, someone asks for a tiny favor, and boom, chaos. Hello and welcome back to Karma Stories. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today we zigzag from harmless mischief to full throttle mayhem, crowd control, drunk drivers, and a justice system twist that'll have you yelling at your headphones. Each story does one up the last one. Before we start, a quick shout out to the 10 new members of the Karma crew who joined yesterday. I hope you guys are enjoying the Nuclear Revenge episode that was too spicy for public release, and I really thank you from the bottom of my heart for supporting the channel. I look forward to seeing your shiny new member badges in the comments down below. Alright, on to the stories, let's jump right in. This story comes to us from an officer named Space Baron. Give us a hand, please. I was a police officer in South Africa for 20 years, and this is one of the many funny stories that happened during my time in the force. This story happened in 1989, while I was stationed at the Supreme Court in Cape Town as a court orderly. Our primary job was to maintain order in the court and to handle any evidence that was to be presented to the court. If the accused was in custody, then it was also our job to make sure that he or she was present for the hearing. The court building had two entrances, the main entrance, which is where you would go in to attend the court, and the second back entrance on the opposite side of the building was for the admin offices. This is the entrance that was used to obtain transcripts of court cases. The court had its own security, but it is important to know that security guards have no powers of arrest. So every day, one of us cops would do duty with a security guard at one of the entrances, just in case things go south and a cop is needed to perform an arrest. This was way past boring to do. Therefore, we made turns among ourselves to do this duty. On this day, I was on duty at the entrance to the admin section. I had just opened the door for the public to enter when Mr. Peters, which was the head of security, not his real name, showed up to talk to the guard stationed with me. Mr. Peters was in his late 50s, and he had a prosthetic arm and hand. Everybody who worked in the court knew about his disability, and I do mean everybody. He was a very likable person, quick-witted, and always ready to crack a joke or make fun of someone. A few minutes later, one of the judge's secretaries walks in the door. She was carrying a large pile of books in her hands, and when she saw him, she instantly said, "Mr. Peters, would you give us a hand, please?" He answered, "Sure." He walked up to her, unhooked his prosthetic hand, and placed it on top of the pile of books. Seeing the hand, the poor woman fainted. We caught her just before she could hit her head on the floor. Needless to say, he was in a heap of trouble for pulling a stunt like that. Now, before you go and crucify the poor man, just remember that this was the 80s and life was a lot different then than it is now. The term politically correct did not exist, and if you wanted to call somebody stupid or dumb, you could just do it without fear. Back then, a stunt like this was seen as naughtiness, and you were usually just given a very stern warning. Try that now, and you will not have a job to speak about anymore. Sometimes, I really miss the good old days. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called MoleWarp. It says, "About 1,000,000 years ago, I was a little kid. One of my uncles had an artificial eye. Sometimes he'd take it out and insist he could see around corners by holding it. I'm ancient now, and I'm still not 100% sure that he couldn't." Another commenter down below called Space Stacy said, "I love it. When my grandmother had her leg amputated, we started calling her Eileen." Alright, you've gotta hand it to Mr. Peters for the commitment, but that kind of is a heavy-handed prank. It's so true that workplaces have changed over the years because you can't get away with anything that you used to be able to get away with. Work used to be so much more fun. Now, everybody's on eggshells. Ugh. Halloween patrol starts quiet until one harmless call flips the night completely upside down. This story comes to us from an officer called BME Special Olympics. Handcuffs on Halloween and parties. This sub isn't too active, so I figured I'd throw in a fun story. I was an officer in a fairly small college city with a population of roughly 75,000 people, if you include the students. Halloween was a special time of year where the whole weekend was an operation that required extra staffing. Parties everywhere, alcohol everywhere, people everywhere, clothes not really there. 'Twas a good time. We had extra dispatchers for our own channel, about 16 officers working the assignment in 2-man units, and the brass would be in their own little mobile command center. As long as the parties didn't violate the occupancy limit, you didn't leave the yards you were drinking in with an open container, you were relatively sober walking around, and the music wasn't obnoxiously loud, we didn't really bother anyone. With 50 to 100 parties spread throughout the city each night during the weekend being the norm, we were already busy enough. Fights, public intoxication, open container violations, underage drinking, and noise violations were everywhere. Lots of citations and arrests happened during the Halloween weekend. After briefing, we all roll out to get food, and I get partnered up with a buddy from my shift. We hang out near the parties in the area we're assigned to, and jump back and forth to other areas surrounding us. We made kids pour out their Borgs, cited for large parties, and just generally made our presence known so nothing got too crazy. We're driving around when a call for a police service comes out in the area for one of the guys working the actual shift that night. A boyfriend calls and says his girlfriend is stuck in handcuffs. I'm absolutely jumping on that call, and I look at my buddy as he already has the mic to mark us en route and laughing. We arrive on scene, make contact, and sure enough, she's in her police officer costume with her hands behind her back. We all look at each other and have a good laugh while I pull out my key to undo the cuffs. They ask if they're real cuffs, and yep, they were. I gave them one of my many keys, told them to have a good night, and we were back on the road to provide more service to the community. It had been steady the whole night, but nothing too crazy. We've taken enough enforcement action that there's now a lull in calls around 2200 hours. Then, a little after 2300 hours, an officer keys up and calls for all available units in the area to respond to a large party. To set the scene, there's an area with 2 sets of townhouses, 20 on each side, that has a large patch of grass in the center that is the size of a football field cut in half lengthwise. We roll up, and there's well over 1,000 people there on the grass, on the balconies, and in the townhouses. We were there just 10 minutes ago, and there was maybe 100 people there. A few weeks prior, these crafty craps created a group chat to organize parties in that specific area. There's 10 of us trying to flush everyone out, cans flying at us, loud music, nobody answering the doors. Complete chaos. It takes us over an hour, the landlord coming out to let the residents know they're being fined by him, a couple of arrests, and many summons to finally get the place cleared out. After this last hooray, they get the point and the city calms for the night. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called Langagger90. It says, "Heh, my ex got caught in her own fuzzy handcuffs once. You know the kind, with a safety latch so you can always undo them, regardless of having the key or not. She did not know about this feature, but still decided to try them out before letting me know about them, while she was home alone. By her admission, it took her 20 minutes to get uncuffed from her office chair due to the way she had cuffed herself to it. I did know about the safety latch, thank you plastic toy police set number 17, so she put them on me as a surprise, but she was the one surprised when I was out of them in 4 seconds flat." Okay, so I don't know about all of you, but I wasn't thinking that this was a costume thing when somebody was calling in saying that their girlfriend was stuck in handcuffs. It does kind of make me wonder where they got a real set of handcuffs from, but then again, I've never looked for them online myself, so I don't know if that's something you can pick up. One late night traffic stop spirals when the driver decides he's smarter than everyone else. Turns out that competence comes with a price. This story comes to us from an officer called Sammy Gamgee. Drunk decides to be a butthead, earns 2+ weeks in jail instead of 0. Y'all liked my last story, so I thought I'd tell another that happened recently. This is the tale of Jose, a man who allowed pride to get the best of him. Pride and booze. Officer Sleepy is on his way back to the substation to end his shift. The last thing he wants is to get tied up with nonsense when he's about to head home. But when Officer Sleepy sees Jose driving like he's blindfolded, he does the right thing and pulls him over. As soon as the window opens, Officer Sleepy gets blasted in the face by the smell of beer. Jose is looking cross-eyed, can barely say the alphabet or count to save his life. Officer Sleepy runs Jose through the SFSTs. Jose is confused why he had to keep doing more tests. He certainly nailed every one. Spoiler alert, he did not. Officer Sleepy places Jose under arrest for one of the most obvious OVIs of his career. Jose is deeply indignant. He's not a criminal. He doesn't have pew-pews. He did all the tests perfectly. He's done nothing wrong. Now, here's the thing you need to know about many big city agencies, including the one for which Officer Sleepy works. People arrested for OVIs are almost never taken to jail the night of their arrest anymore. They're given a court date and taken someplace safe. Officer Sleepy asks Jose for his information. Jose decides he is not going to go with the program, and lies. He says he's the registered owner of the car. Unfortunately for Jose, police can actually look up DMV photos and clearly see that's not him. Officer Sleepy asks what his real name is. Jose stays silent. Officer Sleepy gives Jose one more chance. If you give us your ID info, you will go home tonight with a ticket and a court date. But if you do not ID yourself as required by law, we will charge you with failing to ID, and I promise that you will spend the weekend in jail, and we will ID you anyway. Well, Jose is too proud or drunk or stupid or some combination thereof and decides, that's fine, take me to jail, I'll spend 2 or 3 days in there, no problem. Officer Sleepy took Jose to the ID unit to have him fingerprinted, where his name and info was discovered. After spending hours there and finishing paperwork, Jose was slated in jail about 4 hours after the traffic stop, about 3 hours after Officer Sleepy was supposed to leave for home. Well, despite being a big city where many people are released on recognizance bonds, even for violent crimes, apparently the court is not happy with Jose either for some reason. He was arraigned and given a large bond, which he could not pay. Jose is spending his 17th day in jail as I write this. He has court again soon, where he may be released, if perhaps he can show a bit of humility before the judge. In the end, all he had to do was give up his name, and he wouldn't have even spent a single night in jail. Part of me wants to see him again, so I can ask him if it was worth it. Officer Sleepy, out of service. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called JBuckets44. It says, had Jose ID'd himself to you promptly at all, what would have happened to his car, and how would he have gotten home, given that he was too drunk to drive still? Opie responded and said, his car would have still been impounded, then I would have probably just driven him home. Alternatively, I can take him to a friend or family member to look after him, someone can pick him up, he can take a cab or Uber home, I can take him to get a hotel room for the night close by, or a last resort, before jail, is usually to leave someone at the hospital. Someplace I know they won't die if I leave them there. Okay, so I'm not sure why some areas let the drunken person who was driving just go to a place where they might be safe. Yeah, safe place is in a cell for the night. Get sober, wake up in the morning, so that you know when they leave, they're not going to jump back into another car and go kill somebody. I personally feel like it should be at least an 8-hour hold, but I'd love to know what you all think, so comment down below. A midnight crash kicks off what should be an open and shut felony until the justice system hits the brakes in the worst possible way. This story comes to us from a state trooper called Two Blue Zebras. Actions have minimal consequences. I was working patrol near the end of day shift after the sun had already set. It was the worst part of shift as I wanted to get home on time, but the drunk drivers started to come out. Dispatch to me, Unit 2, report of a crash, limited details. Go ahead. Report of a 2-vehicle crash, county road near Backwater Street, possibly 2 vehicles involved. Caller states they can hear someone yelling for help. En route, that area was a long, straight, empty back road. You know who crashes there? Drunk people. Also, pretty close to a bar. The street was relatively empty, with a house roughly every 200 feet, alongside a 55-mile-per-hour road. I showed up to a hatchback down a culvert on the east side with major front-end damage, a station wagon blocking the road with major side damage, and a sedan in a driveway with a partially ripped-off bumper. So it seemed like some bumper cars had happened. An ambulance was also on scene. I went to check on the vehicle and driver down the culvert. There was a woman smoking a cigarette near it. Oh gosh darn it, I effed up, F! Good evening, ma'am, are you hurt? Me? I'm fine. Well, I'm not. Look at my car. You were driving that? Yes, that guy came out of nowhere, pulled out right in front of me. Now look, F. And after I just got told today that I have stage 4 cancer. Again. I'm sorry to hear that. Today could definitely be going better for you. This woman couldn't stand up straight. Can you tell me about where you were coming from and where you were going? I was coming from Mike's bar, just going home right up the road. I went through the standard questions we ask before doing DUI tests, standardized field sobriety tests for the nerds, and determined she should be able to perform them fine. I did the first test, and really didn't need to do much more than that. I tried to do 2 more, but like I said, she couldn't stand straight, and we didn't get through anything else. After a couple of attempts, she said, "F it, take me to jail." She was placed under arrest. While I was doing this, another trooper arrived to help and spoke to the other people on scene. A person had been hit in the road, but he managed to escape with only minor injuries. The guy in the road owned the other 2 vehicles involved, and they were parked at the time. Clearly, he didn't pull out in front of the drunk lady. However, any injuries in a DUI case meant it was a felony. After a blood test, the drunk lady ended up being about 4 times the legal limit. We went to the hospital before jail, and she decided to get into a verbal altercation with the nurses. I will always remember the line from the sassy gay nurse as we were leaving. "I hope you have the kind of day you deserve." Fast forward a few years later, and I didn't think about the case. Honestly, with the cancer diagnosis, I expected she wouldn't make it to trial anyway, until I got a subpoena. I looked up the history of the case. About 6 months after the arrest, she was granted 3 years probation and a requirement to complete a DUI rehabilitation course within 90 days. She didn't. She did it in about 150 days, but I suppose we all deserve second chances. Or third. The stipulations of all that was that she took a plea of no contest, which functionally counts as a conviction. She did 15 days in jail and had to pay almost $2,000. But this subpoena was even after that, and it was for a trial. I'm no lawyer, but I don't know how you can have a trial for something you took a plea on. Maybe trial just with a judge? As I looked through the court details, I saw her probation had been revoked after about 2 years. So she did something wrong again. This time, I figured she'd just do jail time, maybe a few months at least. Not in our justice system. She got another plea deal to reckless driving, 3 more years probation. From felony DUI down to misdemeanor DUI down to reckless driving, the justice system in action. So I think the cancer diagnosis is supposed to make us feel sorry for this woman, but this woman did drive her car at 4 times the legal alcohol limit and caused an accident, and she only got 15 days in jail. She's lucky she didn't kill anybody. Getting her charges downgraded from felony DUI down to misdemeanor down to reckless driving is absolutely infuriating, and that's not something that should ever happen. Well, now that I've got myself worked up over the justice system, I think it's a good time to end this one here. If you enjoyed these stories, make sure to follow us on your preferred podcasting platform, and if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video. It really does help us out. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.